now people have actually, it has actually become a pull product where people have started to realize the importance of a health insurance, that it's not, everything is not always for from an investment point of view. At times, it's also about securing that, if you fall ill, it becomes a big pain point.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode. I'd like to welcome Khet Singh, the co-founder of Claimbuddy. Welcome, Khet. Thank you for joining us for the show.
Thanks a lot, Devik. Thanks for hosting me here, and lovely to be here. Thank you.
Perfect. So I think just what Claimbuddy is doing right now is it's disrupting the entire health tech space by making insurance claims easy for everyone. And just a little backstory. About 2 years back, just when the first wave of COVID had hit, right after that, my mom had to undergo a surgery in her hand, nothing serious, but she had to undergo a surgery. And during that period, I remember that there was so much of chaos in hospitals because there was like a COVID ward, and we were all very concerned because mom and dad were there, and I was going with them. So during that entire process, we tried to get our insurance claim, medical insurance claim, and by the end of that activity, my dad got so frustrated with it that he was like, okay, let me just drop the idea. I'll just pay for the surgery and let's just leave, because there were certain clauses which he was unaware of, a bunch of things, right? Which a normal individual would not spend so much time in understanding the insurance. They just get the insurance and then later it's just this bag full of surprises. So I just wanted to understand that Claimbuddy is solving a bunch of problems around this insurance, the concept of medical insurance. So if you could just tell us what are the problems you all are exactly solving with this?
Yeah, definitely. I would love to talk about it. Basically, see, in India, in a year, there are almost close to $10 billion of claims which are filed, right, overall. And most of it are, people trying to do it themselves, right? And most of it are hospitals also trying to help patients, but somehow they are also not the best of the domain experts. They would do the papering, they'll just forward it to the insurance company, whatever they get. But the problem lies that, it's something which is not really understood well, how to, file a claim right. And the terms and conditions are vast, and there are endless conditions which usually people are not aware of. They will buy these policies from some agents, maybe buy it online, and not go through the entire list of terms and conditions. So our idea was to at least let the people know what is in their policies and how they can actually file a claim using that policy, staying within the range of those conditions. And there are a lot of people out there selling health insurances, collecting premiums. A lot of startups have also come up who are into selling health insurances. But in India, at least 95% of the premium which is collected is claimed back in some form or the other, by people who go through surgeries, go through treatments, etc. So almost equally sized markets, both, people who are selling insurance versus people who are into the filing of the claims part. But then we realized nobody has really solved for this side of the story when it comes to, filing a claim. So that's the problem we are trying to solve. And there are two ways to solve for these problems, right? One is actually going out and reaching out to public who are going through these claims. And the second one is, onboarding that hospital itself where the patient actually goes. So our idea was, we will go with hospitals, we will work with these hospitals, and via them we will solve for the patients, because at the end of the day, patient is going to be at the hospital. And we don't want to provide them a service that, hey, you just file the claim, you pay the entire amount in cash, and then maybe later on we will help you to get that reimbursed, because that's a small chunk. People today want a cashless experience. They want that if I bought a policy, I should not be made paid, anything out of pocket. So that was the idea. So it's a B2B2C kind of a business model where we work with hospitals for their patients and help them solve for the claims. So a big problem, unsolved problem, a complex problem to be solved. maybe that is why there are very few players, who are trying to actually solve for this, to work with hospitals, with patients, and help them, solve for their claims.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a massive problem, and with I think COVID helping people realize the importance of medical insurance. Like I think a lot of people prior to COVID would have taken medical insurance very lightly, ki might not need it.
In our industry, we call it that before COVID, it was always a push product.
Hmm.
Life insurance people would still buy, but health insurance people would be like, it's what if I don't fall sick? It's a waste, etc., etc. So now people have actually it has actually become a pull product where people have started to realize the importance of a health insurance. That it's not, everything is not always for from an investment point of view. At times, it's also about securing that, if you fall ill, it becomes a big pain point. I would like to bring a fact here that every year at least 10 to 15% of Indian population, degrades their the way they live their life,
Okay.
from a middle income group to a lower income group, to a upper middle income to group to a middle income group, just because they have to go through one experience of a hospitalization. So one spend, which is say anywhere between 2 to 7 lakh rupees, reduces their entire that grade they fall into. So and a lot of people are pushed into poverty because of it. Just one People spend their life savings on one treatment. So that's where I believe that it is important to have health insurance. And on top of it, it is more important to understand your health insurance when you're buying. Otherwise, there is no use, because when it's going to be the time of claim, you will not be able to use it right. And all the premiums that you would have paid so far for years and years goes for a toss. So both the things are equally important: buying a right policy, knowing the conditions, and then be able to file a claim when it is needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that even when I got my first medical insurance, I would say right after this thing happened with mom, I said that, okay, I need to get mine renewed. I need to look into it myself. So I got it through a friend, very dear friend of mine. But irrespective of that, what I did is I tried to understand all the terms associated with it. There is like a specific email which I have where I've asked him a bunch of questions like what is the claim settlement ratio? What is
Right.
the rating of this policy? So I did like a bunch of research before getting into it. But I would say that beyond a certain extent, even an insurance agent, whoever is selling you the insurance, is tied or bound to that company. So even let's say it's a Sunday
Mhm.
and I need to go to the hospital and I need this treatment to be done, he'll be like, okay, but sorry, I need to check with the company, and the company working hours are probably not there. So I think that
Correct.
also is a major roadblock or issue for me to get my treatment done in time through the insurance.
Yep. No, definitely. I think when we go to our hospital partners, we tell them, because if the patient goes to a hospital, say before 10 a.m. in the morning, or say after 7 p.m. in the evening, or maybe on a non-working day, their corporates or their insurances usually do not respond.
Mm.
And what a hospital typically does is they would collect some amount of a deposit that we'll see if it goes through or not. And for the time being, for the admissions part, give us this much of a deposit. So if you have to pay deposit, if you have to pay cash, then there's no use of having a health insurance. So we are solving for that also by providing them a 24 into 7 assistance, in terms of your patient can come in at any time. We would help them file a right claim.
Understood. And in terms of as a consumer or as a, I would say, user, I go to a hospital. Since you're saying you have a 24/7 support, so is it through the hospital or is there like a helpline? Like on your website also, is there like a helpline which I can reach out to with a partner hospital? Like how does that work?
Right. So we have both the models, right? One is we work with hospitals. If it's a big enough hospital, we put our people also there to assist the patient face to face, counsel them, explain them about their policies, help them, go through the entire journey, so that relatives of the patients or anybody does not have to go through the entire hassle. And if it's a smaller unit, we train the hospital's team to use our products. We have some tech tools which are being used, so that the patient experience remains the same across all the hospitals.
Understood. So the two startups which you mentioned, I'd like to mention their names. While reading up about you, I found out. So you were part of Urban Clap and Pristyn Care, and I think
Right.
both of them are doing exceptionally well right now. And you had different roles. I think at Urban Clap you were into mainly a business development role. And what about Pristyn Care? In that startup, what role were you
So of course, that's my journey started with Urban Clap, which is now Urban Company,
in?
and yeah, the youngest category manager there. I launched two categories there,
Mm,
and then Pristyn. So the co-founder at Pristyn, I met him at Urban Clap, so we were working together. He was my oversight there, and that's where we met. And when he started Pristyn, I was one of the early employees there
mm,
to lead the business development only. We would visit hospitals, meet patients, talk to doctors. So that's where my healthcare learning comes from. And of course, today both the companies are unicorns. So that experience definitely helps when you join early stage startups, when you are a part of their early teams, and when you see them building things from scratch. Right? So those are the best experience I would say that one can have or one can grab instead of joining a regular large scale organization.
mm. So this brings me to a very interesting question, which I've been waiting to ask an entrepreneur who's had both these sides. Now, let's consider that you go to college, you go to IIM, and then you start Claimbuddy. So the basic broad question is that as an entrepreneur or as a founder, right out of college, should I start a business immediately? Should I start up immediately, or should I start a hyper growing fast scaling startup, get some years of experience close to the founding team to accelerate my learning? I mean, there are two types of learning, right? Where you learn from being in an environment, or where you learn from making your own mistakes and starting your own company. So I would say, what would you suggest any new entrepreneur out there? Like, which route is going to be more beneficial, or what are the pros
Right.
and cons of each?
Right. See, interesting question, right? And it really depends actually.
Hmm,
If your question would have been that after my MBA, should I get into a regular job, work there
hmm,
for 2-3 years, and then get onto my startup?
hmm,
It would have been a straightforward answer to get onto your startup before those 2-3 years of work experience in a regular, say, a larger company. Because people do think that I'll work, get some experience, and come back to this side of the world, but it becomes really difficult to move out of that zone once you're in that zone. But since your question is joining an early stage startup versus heading onto your own startup, I think it really depends on and I don't see any fault in either of these two, because talking about my personal experience, I had some startup of working in early stage startups. Plus, on top of it, during my undergrad, I was running two pocket money startups. We would take students on trips from Delhi University or Amity University and make some money out of that. So we used to call it Chalo Trip Pe.
yeah,
Used to take students on Goa to Manali. So some interesting stuff to
yeah,
make some pocket money there. Then we would also sell tiffins to night shift call centers, to banks, etc. Another
hmm,
small scale pocket money startups during my undergraduation.
yeah,
So those experiences were different. Of course, that does not teach you how to run an organization, but gives you that business acumen on how to make money. Like the dhanda kaise chalate hain, typical Ashneer Garover language, I would say,
yeah.
is you can learn from those pocket money ventures as well. But I think it's important to have some sort of an early stage startup experience. You should join that not to only learn business, but also how to scale things from scratch. Because if you have an idea and if you also have an early stage team, and you will reach a stage where you'll have to scale that. And if you have not seen anybody, if you've not seen anybody close enough to do that in your life, you would of course always can take help. You can always talk to your fellow friends, etc. But if getting a chance, you should definitely go for it. Um I personally did not because I already had the experiences with me before my MBA. But definitely it definitely helps. However, if somebody is has some great idea with a great founding team and have tried and tested things before, should definitely jump directly into it, because things can be figured out on the way. It's not
Yeah.
really it's not a fixed condition that you should have had worked in an early stage startup before you start your own, and it saves time.
Yeah.
I could do my MBA because my age was there. Otherwise, maybe I would have never done it.
Mm.
And my idea was always okay. So I was 22 then. I was like, okay, even if I do an MBA and if it doesn't work out or if it doesn't help me much, I would still be 24.
Mm.
Uh, However, I realized so in my second year, when COVID was there, classes were online. That I don't think these online classes are making sense. So that's when we started working on this venture itself.
So you
So we
started working.
preponed our plans to start it after MBA
Okay.
versus starting it during MBA.
So you got the idea for this startup while you were doing your MBA itself?
So no, so we had this thought when I was working with Pristyn Care, my previous organization,
Mm.
because it has a similar healthcare connect.
Mm.
We used to meet a lot of doctors, a lot of hospitals. We saw this problem firsthand when we were working with Pristyn. So the idea came then. However, the idea was okay. Let's maybe do an MBA because my age is backing me up. And but then I realized okay, it's not really. I don't know what should I say. But
Yeah.
again, it's good to do an MBA. Always good to do an MBA. It helps you get into that zone of the people around you, that the network that you build, the friends you make, uh, and you have all sort of people around you. So those couple of years definitely make you a better person. However, in terms of academic learning, I would be really frank here. I don't even remember the name of the courses I
Yeah.
had. So definitely, and then I think that is not the idea also, of an MBA to maybe teach you more acads. It's more about the networks around you, the kind of people you meet, the thoughts exchange, and these I have a strong friendship circle, and these things last long, and they help you, right? So I think it was a good decision to do an MBA. But again, uh, for an example, I was the one who opted out of the placements and
Mm.
got into my startups when I was in my second year.
Mm.
So that thought of getting into larger organization was something, was like okay, maybe I would never want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what you said is what MBAs or colleges are for nowadays, like the networks that you build. And I think when you get into getting admission into the IITs, IIMs, or any top tier colleges, in itself is a filter to like get a very strong
Okay.
crowd to network and propel things forward. And I'm sure uh, the network effect within a IIM or an IIT or any top tier
Correct.
college is very useful over the years.
No, super useful, and not only network. It's more about the friends you make.
Mm, absolutely.
It's not really always that it's going to help you in some way or the other in your professional life. But I think otherwise also, you know, uh, I made friends who would always stand there, be it a personal thing or a professional thing. So it definitely helps. And if like somebody like me in my undergrad, I did not have that hostel life also.
Mm,
So it was a regular Delhi University college. So my idea was okay, and then I think anybody who's listening to this
yeah,
broadcast,
yeah.
uh, get some hostel life experience. It's definitely going to help you and take you long.
No, absolutely. I think I fully agree with you because I have also never had hostel life experiences during my
Right,
engineering since I was studying in Pune. And a
right.
friend of mine, he told me कि he said कि 4 साल में engineering में कुछ पढ़ा नहीं पढ़ा, but दोस्त बढ़िया बन गए. So I think
Exactly.
like
So that definitely helps.
yeah, that definitely helps. And for me also, like you said, hostel life experiences like just living on your own, uh, a
Hmm.
bunch of things. I mean, hostel life is a different transformative experience for a lot of people.
Sure.
I think that's something that everyone should experience, and also moving to another city. So I think you experienced both.
Correct. Yep.
And this idea, since you've been very, I would say, involved with healthcare and hospitals, and you did like ground research on the problem statement, identifying what was the stage at which you decided that, okay, this is an idea? What I'm trying to understand is that as a founder or as a entrepreneur, you come across a lot of ideas like, okay, this is a business, ye dhande mein paisa ban sakta hai, isme, this is a problem worth
Right.
solving, that is a problem worth solving. So how did you really identify that this was that definite problem that you wanted to solve? What was that process?
See, so basically, there are two things, right? Uh, so when I was working in the healthcare venture, in my previous organization, and it was always about meeting patients, meeting doctors, meeting hospitals, and realizing the core problem. And in India, there are two things which really needs to be scaled up is the education and the health, right? And for me, it was always like, okay, if you have already have some sort of an health experience, and if you can solve something in this, it can definitely scale, right? Given the current condition of healthcare in India, it has a lot of scope in terms of scaling and improving things, and it's a large problem. It's a problem at large. So I'll give you a small example. In India, roughly say 20%, around 20% people have health insurance, which is exactly opposite to what is in US.
Mm,
In US, 20% people pay out of pocket to get these treatments, right?
mm,
So imagine the entire shift is waiting to happen in India, where this number will improve, and the health insurance penetration will go deeper in the entire ecosystem. So I saw that, okay, of course, one is it's a healthcare problem, good to solve, good to scale, and in India it's needed also.
mm,
Second is it is going to be here for long, right? The entire the improvement in the penetration of health insurance, or the improvement in the entire healthcare services space. So those were a couple of things which made me realize, okay, it is a definitely a big problem to solve and a good problem to solve. And it's not gonna, and of course, see, there are two things, right? What I feel is you should never be super emotional to your ideas,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
Always be ready to drop those ideas if you realize that it's not working out. I've seen people in my circle itself from last 6 7 years of my experiences, that people stick to an idea and keep trying to solve that only, irrespective of it working out or not working out, it getting scaled or not scaled, etc. So for me, I think I did not want to get too emotional with the idea. If it works, if it can work, it should work. That's the idea, and to solve for it. And you should always be ready to pivot.
Mm,
Like, I'll tell you a small example. We were always sure that we want to be in healthcare when working at Pristyn, but in last almost 2 years now, we have already pivoted thrice our business model, right? So be open to ideas to change your business models, and as and when you realize, okay, this is what's going to work and this is not going to work, you should keep trying. And it's a simple logic we follow is build, fail, fail, build, fail, etc.
yeah.
Because that's and if you just keep trying one thing and just trying to build that only, and it keeps failing, that's not how you can scale faster. Of course, one day you will definitely solve it, but I think it's more important to have a sense of the timelines or the pace you are working at. Because for me personally, building startups, it's all about pace, how fast you can scale, how large you can become, and how large the audience you can impact.
Mm.
So that impact is most important for us, and that's what we are trying to touch with.
No, I think that answer really sums up a lot of things which founders should be aware of. Like don't get too attached or emotional about an idea. Be open to a pivot. See, identify like what is the pace at which you can scale this, and D, like what is the market ever growing? Like the fact which you shared, where India has only 20% of our population on with medical insurance, which is actually a very alarming fact. Uh,
True.
it's very surprising and very sad also that as our urban population is also increasing, I think that your addressable market will keep on increasing because people will go
Correct.
from 20% to 30% to 40% eventually. That should be the
Right.
direction.
And in fact, within that 20%, a large chunk is the recent government initiative of Ayushman Bharat Yojana,
Hmm.
where people below poverty line gets a 5 lakh rupee of health insurance. But the problem there is most of these people don't know that they have this policy,
Yeah.
right? Forget about them using it or not using it. They do not know that they fall under that category, and even if they know that they fall under the category, they do not know which hospital they should go to use that scheme, right? And I don't know if even if they figure out that this is the place where I want to go to, will that doctor or the hospital be ready to assist him with that 5 lakh rupees of a coverage? So a lot of issues to be solved within healthcare and within health insurance, to be specific.
Yeah, I think it's a huge market, a huge opportunity with a lot of challenges which are to be solved for.
Correct.
And I think that you're at just like the start of a very beautiful journey ahead.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, just the tip of the iceberg, I think, for you all now
Yes.
solving with this.
Correct. I think we are just scratching
Yeah,
the tip here
scratching
as of
surface.
now, but a lot to be solved.
And another fact which I'd like to share with people who are watching this is that on your website, I saw that you all have processed claims worth 100 crore plus. So I
Right.
think that that is a very strong sign that you all have really achieved certain scale in a certain amount of time. So
Right.
currently, like with with this scale that you've seen, you also recently raised capital. What I wanted to understand from you in terms of raising capital is that you raised capital from some, I would say, well-known venture capitalists in the country. So what I wanted to understand is that what is it that as an entrepreneur or as a founder, one should look for from an investor? Because I'm sure that while reaching out to these people, you must have reached out to many more, and
Right.
the ratio of people saying yes is much smaller. So not a lot of founders
Yes.
understand that. So there'll be two questions which I'd like to ask you. You can choose to answer them, but first is that a how many what was the number of VCs that you reached out to, and how many of them actually got back positively, like a percentage, probably?
Right. See, so basically, I would have talked to some more than 50 to 60 funds
Wow.
for this round, right? And we had a positive response rate of roughly 20%,
Mm.
right? So we had a good response from almost 10 funds, right? And I think the timings are important,
Mm.
and the conviction part is super important, right? The investor who has the first conviction or personally feels that yes, this is a super important problem to be solved, uh, should be the one that you start to work with. And that's how we also decided. So for me, I think for the investor part, it's super important for your investors to be aligned with your vision, what you are targeting, what are the numbers that you are currently have, is the problem big enough, can you scale this large enough, and whatever you are thinking in terms of where you want to take this business to, they should be aligned to that. And that is the most important aspect of maybe taking on onboarding a couple of investors, taking their money to scale.
Yeah, I think that in this age of social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, everything, people just see that, oh, okay, Claimbuddy or any company has found new investors. They don't see the 50, 60 companies or the fund houses that you reached out to, the failures that you had to go through. That is something that no one ever speaks about.
Right. No, it's important also, and I think that that's how it works as well, because some investors saying a no does not really mean that the problem is not real,
Mm.
or the path that you are onto is not right. Uh, so many investors have multiple concerns. One might think that it's not what they usually invest into. Maybe it's not their forte. Some investor, for them it might not be the right time to invest, right? For some of them we were too early maybe.
Mm.
So different investors have different reasons, and nobody should take it to their heart saying, oh, so this guy has said no, then I think I'm doing something wrong. So till the time you are convinced with your idea, and till the time you are convinced that the numbers you are hitting, or the scale that you are onto, or the growth, the month on month growth that you are touching, is good enough to raise, and this time is right, you should keep talking to investors and pitching your solutions. Of course, keep improving, and with each of the investors you learn something or the other new.
Mm.
They would definitely give you some sort of an advice that, hey, in this pitch maybe this could have been better, or this could have been better. or if you can maybe talk more about this part of the business, etc. So these learnings help you to reach that right investor with all decked up and ready. But again, one should not always consider every advice that people share,
Yeah.
because that maybe deviates the entire path that you are onto. So take the best of the advices that you get from anybody, not only investors, your friends, families, your employees, and be open to listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point you highlighted on. And I think as a founder, I can only imagine going to 60 people who have the potential to invest in your business. And out of that, probably 40 of them saying that, okay, I don't want to invest, or ridiculing your idea, a bunch of things. But
Right.
the whole point is that having that conviction to still stick to it and taking the best parts of advice and then just putting it through. I mean, I think that it just having that clarity that, okay, why am I doing, what am I doing, and what am I really
Right.
solving for? uh, that really helps get through these times.
Definitely.
And before we end this, I just like to ask you one thing, that you've been a founder uh, since probably, how old were you when you started your first pocket money venture, like you like to call it?
I was 17 at that time. And so basically the idea was, okay, so I come from Ludhiana. So I was born in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. I was brought up in Ludhiana, did my schooling from Ludhiana, Punjab.
Hmm.
And after my 12th, I moved to Delhi University for my graduation. And that's when it hits you first. Okay, now you are out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And of course, we had this thing. I had a great friend of mine, my school friend, with me in that journey. He was with me in my school. He was with me in my college. He was with me in my first job. He
Hmm.
was with me in my second job.
Wow.
So right. So till Pristyn, he is always along. And it's important to have, a few super close friends of yours who can be there with you all the time.
Yeah.
And with him only we did all these adventures, all these pocket money ventures, to figure out things.
Yeah.
And it helped, right? So when we were doing that tiffin startup, so we of course we could not bring in chefs or the cooks
Hmm.
or to pay them, etc.
Hmm.
So in that area only, in the colony only, we talked to a few aunties who would just sit at home. And we told them that if you can cook food for us, all of you getting together,
Yeah.
we will share some part of the revenue with you. Of course we can't pay you salaries and all,
Yeah.
but and they also had free time, right? So
Yeah.
it's like utilizing that the free time of theirs. So we made them cook some food. We talked to banks, night shift call centers, that we will give you such sort of tiffins, etc. And we cracked some good deals,
Yeah.
and we made some money out of that.
Yeah.
And it was good. But then we realized that it's not something scalable.
Hmm.
That and at that age also, it was important to finish the graduation at least
Yeah.
to get that pass certificate.
Hmm.
So then we got back to our college.
Hmm.
And when we were we got back to our college in second year, third year, we had this a travel startup
Yeah.
where we would take students on trips, because that was more like it's a 1 week of a trip, say in 3 months, where you just plan everything for that 1 week. You register students, take them for those 7 to 10 days of a trip
Hmm.
together. So I remember, taking 400 students, all decked up, in say about
400
10
students.
buses, 400
A
students around DU
massive
and Amity,
number. Yeah.
in 10 buses, taking them to Manali from Delhi. Uh, so it was good. So of course we had volunteers who would take care of things. We
Yeah.
had some agencies who would take care of the travel and the food.
Hmm.
And for us, the money we would made at least help us to have that trip for free, of course,
Hmm.
and run your pocket
That's
money thing
quite
as well.
cool.
Yep, of
That's
course. Those experiences do help. So I was 17 when I started
Do you come
to
from a business
run.
background by any chance? Like family comes from a business background?
Yes. So my dad runs, a restaurant in Ludhiana, Punjab. So we have
Oh.
a sweet shop there,
Hmm.
and so my elder brother also takes care of that.
Hmm.
So for me, it was like dad would say, okay, you have your time, and if nothing works out, come back and maybe run this shop.
Yeah.
So I always had that leeway, from my parents or from my elder brother, and that also helps you. That
Absolutely.
okay, you can take those plunge and try things out,
Yeah.
and if nothing works out, maybe and that is something, of course, I never wanted to get back to to that business, but again, it definitely helps if you have that support from your family.
Yeah, I think having that support and having that environment where entrepreneurship is looked at positively rather than like, no, ye chhod do, tum job hi le lo. This is like your
Correct.
career path. This is what you need
Right.
to do to be successful in
True.
society. I think that's a very different discussion. So I think this one last
Correct.
question which I'd like to ask you. Since you've been a founder since such an early age and you've done so many startups, uh, what is that one life skill or something that entrepreneurship has taught you over these years?
I think one should learn how to solve problems, right? How to get those hacks, you call it jugaad, to solve for things. And if you can learn that one thing, be it any problem, you would have some sort of a solution to that. And stick to first principles, right? The first principles of businesses always helps, rather than maybe trying too many things or too many new things.
Hmm.
So when you're already at a stage when you're running a startup, I would suggest you to stick to first principle and keep building and keep scaling if you have solved for something. And if you have not yet solved for something, keep trying ways out, or bringing out new hacks to have better solutions to those problems. And once you have that solution, just hustle it out and maybe kill the show.
Thank you so much, Kate. This was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Yep.
doing this.
Thanks a lot, Devik. Thanks for the time, and thanks for hosting me.
Yeah.